Is the end in sight for the Iranian war? There's a lot of things going on. Donald Trump has announced that if there's not a deal by 8 p.m. Tuesday, yes, the operative time is 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Tuesday, that he is going to obliterate Iran with everything, power plants, bridges. And apparently, there's been a big meeting coordinating targets between the United States military and Israel. They've already picked the targets they're going to hit, and they're talking about hitting them for the span of about maybe 3 weeks. Now, there's a couple of things that will be true as we reach the end of this campaign. One, we're going to be running just about out of key munitions. And two, there isn't going to be a whole lot of targets to hit either. So, at least that they can reach with the weapons they have. Yeah, there's a lot of missiles and deep bunkers that you can't get at unless you're putting troops on the ground, which I don't see that happening, or you're going to use nukes, which I don't see that happening either. So there is a couple of things going on that we got to pay attention to. But there is now talk of a potential 45-day ceasefire, which might transpire into a total end of the current conflict. Now, on the other side, Iran is saying, hey, we're not going to open the Strait of Hormuz unless we get reparations to pay for all destroyed facilities. Now, I don't see either Israel or the United States stepping up to do any of that, because the reason they destroyed all this stuff was to knock Iran down so hard that they couldn't crawl back up and pose a threat again and any time in the near future. So I don't think that's in the cards in any shape, form, or fashion. Not to mention it would be exceedingly expensive to replace all that. The United States is probably spending whatever money it can replacing ammo and missiles that it's used in this campaign, because we're exceedingly low, and they're talking about using up all the JASSM long standoff extra range missiles, the JASSM missiles. So I mean, literally, they're talking about using all of them. We've already used like 1,000. So this is something that we got to pay a lot of attention to. And on another front, there's been a French ship, cargo ship or oil tanker, actually oil tanker, went through the Strait of Hormuz, just went through, and apparently they made a backdoor deal with Iran, and apparently they've been favoring Iran the last day or two in the UN Security Council, and apparently this has made the United Arab Emirates mad at France, and so much so that they were the primary investors in the latest French Mirage jet. And I mean, they were putting a lot of money, billions, and they just decided to withdraw, allegedly because even though they were putting in the bulk of the money, France wasn't going to let them see anything in the black boxes that goes into the jet. And oh, yeah, I've looked at those in F-15 myself because, yeah, I was doing test program sets for testing their failure. So, yeah, I knew at one time the entire F-15 avionics suite. All that aside, the situation is that it's probably to do with what Dylan's France is making with Iran. Now, Macron has basically come out. He's the French president, Macaroni. He's came out and said that Europe's got to stand on their own, and we're going to, basically withdraw from the United States and blah, blah, blah. And, most of us here are probably happy with that stand, except probably I would say that the likes of him, the liberal leadership of France and Germany and England today with Keir Starmer, yeah, and Mertz over in Germany, they probably couldn't tie their shoes if they tried. I don't think they can make a successful go of it. And politically, they're probably going to fall because they have ascended to power, promising their people all kind of social programs that they're just not going to be able to finance when they suddenly got to pay for their own defense, because the United States is underwritten about 60% of their defense. And if we're pulling out, they're going to have to make up the gaps, especially if they're really concerned about Russia. So that's the other thing to take into account. So I would say and then maybe that's a good thing, because it gives a chance for the the right side of the spectrum in Europe, the right side parties to ascend and displace a lot of these knuckleheads on the leaning left, like the likes of Starmer and Emmanuel Macaroni and Mertz. You know, Mertz is going to be in a Hertz. So I think that'd be a good thing for Europe because that might turn Europe around and save the continent from the onslaught of malaise that they're facing right now. Because if Europe don't make some changes, Europe will be the most powerful nuclear Islamic republic in the world. It'd be Eurostan if some big changes aren't made. So I don't want to see that happen for the sake of the people in Europe. So I think it might be a good thing for Europe to wake up and turn around and deal with these things because I think they can because Europe's got a collective GDP greater than the United States of America, and they got more people. Yet we've been bankrolling them, and now we're bankrupt. And so I don't see how we can continue that game. Not to mention hey, look what happened. United States, Macron, not our war, not our war. Well, we participated in several European fiascos. It wasn't ours either. Kosovo being one, that whole thing against Serbia and Kosovo, all that stuff. And also, the United States backed France up with their colonial aspirations in Africa for years, and we had no business being in there. We had no business doing that. We should not have been in Africa, propping up the colonial empire of France. And African countries said they didn't want any more of that. And basically, they found a way to kick them out. And I said, more power to them. So, the French had better wake up. They're probably signing their own demise, and it's happening with them, with countries that they had alliances with in the Gulf state region, the Persian Gulf, like the United Arab Emirates, who's turned around now they've said their primary military alliances with the United States, whereas they were previously very closely aligned with France. So, there's a lot of realignment going on in the world right now. And of course, actually, UAE wants the United States to take those three islands I mentioned in the last broadcast in the Strait of Hormuz, which had previously belonged to them, that the Shah of Iran had seized, being Abu Musa and lesser and greater Tom Islands, TONB, however you say that. So these are things that would take probably the 31st Marine Excursionary Unit that's with the USS Tripoli probably could take those islands. Now, can you maintain them? Well, that's a problem. In that, if you got missile interceptors, yes, but we're running low missile interceptors. I mean, you could intercept the drones with various means, but the missiles would be hard to maintain interception on in the long time, given the way we've been going through our reserves. So therefore, it may not be a great idea after to try to take those islands. I'd suggest that might be what we do to set up a perimeter defense. And if you had defensive missiles, it would make sense. But we're running out. So it'll be interesting to see what goes down here in the next few weeks. But Trump is talking about a 3-week campaign of bombing. And like I said, just one or two, a couple things are true. One, we're going to run out of bombs or run out of targets to hit that, are viable targets that we can reach with our weapons, not the deep underground bases with all the missile cities and things like that. Now, it's still possible that we might send a ground crews in special ops to try to take the nuclear materials. That would be an exceedingly risky operation. And I'm beginning to think maybe that won't happen, even though we're sending the forces over. And some of the forces we're sending over may be just leverage the negotiations with what are the cats doing now? with the uh, with Iranians. So there's a lot at play right now. Tomorrow, President Trump is going to address the nation. I think it's either 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time. I will try to carry it live right here. And prior to that, we'll have tomorrow afternoon, I got the exact time, there will be a live broadcast from NASA on the approach to the moon with Orion. I will try to carry that when on my Galactic Graves channel as soon as I get a good beat for when they're going to carry it. They had a press conference today. I've tried to inquire, as to when some of these things would happen, and it's not always been clear. So I will try to come live to show you guys when we're approaching the moon. When they go around the far side, there will be no signal, but when they emerge, we'll get signal again. So I might break that broadcast into two parts tomorrow uh, on Galactic Graves, my Galactic Graves channel. So all these things are happening. What's up, Classy? I'm getting a boo. Is that like hello, or or is that something else? So I want to say I hope everybody had a blessed Easter. Um, that's we just had a important holiday, and I think it's kind of magical that we're approaching the moon and thereabouts the Easter weekend, because the first time we did it in 1968 was Christmas Eve, and to me that was a magic time when Apollo 8 went around the moon for the first time. Whoa. And they actually read from the book of Genesis. I was 8 years old, and that was just pure magic to me. So I hope that this also inspires a lot of young people uh, in this mission. So all that said, how's my property in Arizona? Everything's going pretty well here. I just got to figure out how to keep things going because I'm looking at losing my job probably here in the next few days. Good chance. So I got to figure out how to juggle and keep things moving. It won't. I was in the process of doing some major garden renovation and expansion, and the materials I was buying was not cheap, and I got to put fencing around it, and that's not cheap. So I got to figure out how to do that now. It's going to be a stretch because I don't have any income. I got bills, so I got to figure out how to manage that. I mean, seriously. Um, I've got some big challenges in front of me, and I got to figure out how to swing that. Maybe growing microgreens and selling worm tea, but I got to order an air pump to make the worm tea and a few things like that. So I got a lot to do in a short time to get it done. Uh, if the job gives up the ghost, and they've already told us that most of the people in our group will be gone. Well, you got a huge cut, huge cut. So that's another thing. So I don't know how I'd survive that. I would imagine that the people that would be preferred are the ones that are there in-house, where the headquarters of the group is. Uh, People like me that are out in the far reaches working remotely are probably a lot more expendable. So how's my worm farming? The worms are doing well. The worms are doing well. Uh, I just need the herd to breed and grow and expand. So maybe one day I can sell worm compost and worm castings and actually worms here locally. I think that needs to be a little while still. Hopefully we'll be selling worm tea though this spring or into the summer. The best time for worm tea is in the summer, maybe into the fall. So that's something that is a better product while stuff is wrong. But I tell you, around here, the soil is so not soil. It is so devoid of nutrients that I'll probably have a big market for that stuff. Probably a really big market. Anyway, all that said, that's kind of where I'm at on some of that stuff. How you doing, Pilgrim? Um, I'm going to show some articles here in a little bit. We're not going to be on here long. I'm going to start out in a little bit talking, about some evidence for um, Shroud of Turin perhaps being genuine. And bear in mind, I've actually seen it. I've seen the Shroud of Turin myself. I've sat in the chapel where it's at there in Turin or Torino, whatever you want to call it. It goes by both names in Italy, and just looked at it for hours. I sat in that chapel and I walked up, you walk by and review it, but you also sit in that chapel and just look. And I just looked at that thing for hours and hours and hours. It was, I think it's real. We'll go into that in a little bit. I have thought that for a long time based on the kind of evidence I've seen about it. Now, whether it is real or not, shouldn't change a person's faith. But I got a lot of good reason for thinking that thing is actually the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, and the image on it was from his resurrection. And we just celebrated that day, and hope everybody had a blessed Easter. All right, that said, um, casing, so you can say that they are at the service of the POTUS. They took the oath of the United States Constitution, not the deep state ruled by the R. Yeah, well, we'll see. A lot of these feds are serving the deep state. Unfortunately, yeah, they do take the oath to defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. So all that said, let's get into some of these articles here. Hang on, let me find the share button. But whoa, this computer goes nuts. You just touch the, I just touched the touchpad to try to move the mouse, and it's an auto click. Everything all the way across where the mouse goes. And then you hit the clicker part and nothing happens. Eesh, this thing is nuts. It is nuts. I just had my screens jumping up and down, going in and out. Wow. Hang on, guys. I just took all the files. I just copied all the files on this computer onto a hard drive, onto a portable hard drive. I'm getting ready to get rid of this thing. It's horrible. Yikes. All right. Give me a second, guys. Hopefully, don't do that again. I got to be very, very, very careful handling this thing. It's nuts. Ding, 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 ding. My big desktop computer, the sound card's dead on it. I got a couple of smaller laptops I took in to the shop as backups. The one I used to use a lot, which don't have much memory on it, but I'm probably going to go back to that one. All right, guys, hang on. I got to change something. Ding, ding, ding. Before we get into the news and all that stuff with the articles, what I want to do is show you something to help you and help me too. As y'all know, I've done several videos talking about some product safety issues that we have these days, talking about the toxic materials, chemicals, and heavy metals we find in a vast array of consumer products, more than not. And that's because these products, all these used to be nice little brands with their own little formulations, but most of them have had their formulations altered by their new parent companies, which there's just 12 companies now control over 550 consumer brands. You probably heard, like most of you have heard me say this before, but for the new people, uh, what's happened here is that they've determined it's cheaper to pay out lawsuits and settlements than it is to actually provide you good, clean, quality products. And the thing that really frosts my cake the most in a bad sort of way is that they put they got heavy metals in over 90% of the toothpaste, including the stuff you give your kids. So we're not just talking about food, guys. The things that worry me is the stuff you put on your skin. I didn't use lotion for years once I figured out what I was in. I do now because I got good, clean stuff to use. And I get dry skin, so I'm happy to have found good product lines again. Shampoo, just all your everyday products that you use, soaps, dishwashing detergent, clothes cleaning detergent, all this stuff. It's just loaded with chemicals. So the good thing here is also these companies are primarily have controlling interest on them by the asset management companies. The big three asset managers dominate U.S. corporate control, the biggest one being BlackRock, headed by your Larry Fink, who also now runs the House of Klaus, the WEF. So, my friends, if that's what you want, then if you want all those toxins, just keep buying this junk here. But if you want to break free and switch away from it, I've provided a means to do that. It's switchwithgreg.com. And in here you'll see we've got a family-owned company based here in America that manufactures everything in America, American jobs, and I think we got a plant up in Canada too, but it's all here in America, North America, and most of it in the United States, vast majority of it. The products are non-toxic. They're tested extensively for consumer safety. The plants are clean, and they have, unlike the places that had all the rat fecal matter getting 2,000 different products, like I mentioned previously, and even the cleaners are plant-based. So, in any event, and not grain. Somebody mentioned glyphosate the other night. They're not grain based, okay? So you're not going to get those chemicals. And the snacks even are like they have snacks and drink mixes. The snacks are mainly nuts and fruits. So you're still not going to get the glyphosate and that kind of stuff in them. So it's good, clean stuff. And I'm happy with it. So just go to switchwithgreg.com. You fill out this form, hit enter, submit. It just goes to me and the lady's helping me named Lisa. She's a member of the community and it goes no further. And she will bring you on board. All right, enough said of that. Let's talk about the Shroud of Turin. Because the scientist, what's his name here? La 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 la. There's been some scientists, a lot of scientists have been poring over this shroud, and there have been some that set out to disprove it, thinking it was fake. And they had an agenda. Yeah, I want to disprove this thing. It's a forgery. And when they dug into it, they became Christian based on what they saw in the shroud itself, because it is an interesting cloth. But this one is talking, now I've seen this kind of stuff before about the pollen, but the pollen analysis is most interesting. I'll probably show this guy's name here. Okay. Oh, this should have been easy to remember. Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, not Jeremiah Johnson, but Jeremiah Johnston. Everybody knows Jeremiah Johnson was a mountain man. And maybe some of y'all saw Robert Redford play him in a movie once upon a time. I did. Great movie. Anyway, he was a real character, Jeremiah Johnson. Well, this is Dr. Jeremiah Johnston. And so he's talking about this analysis that goes all the way back to the 70s, forensic analysis that talks about 58 different kinds of pollen that are in the shroud, 38 of them being identified as species associated with Jerusalem specifically, that the pollens that bloom during Passover when Jesus was crucified. So the pollen from the Middle East, he said the pollen from the Middle East plant species was found in the dust samples. And he says among them were plants that only grow in southern Israel, western Jordan, and the Sinai. He says dust from the feet area of the shroud where his feet were contain a specific calcium carbonate from travertine aragonite limestone, similar to the dust taken from the tomb in Jerusalem. So this rock dust, and I'll tell you some other things about it that's not in this article in a minute. But anyway, so they looked at this and they figured that the crucifixion took place on April 3rd, is their best guesstimate, and AD 33, because that's when it was when the Passover was on a Friday, and the next day was Sabbath was a Saturday, and so they said it either had to be AD 26 Pontius Pilate rule from AD 26 to AD 36. And the only dates that would have worked out for this crucifixion would have either been 7 April AD 30 or 3 April AD 33, and are leaning toward the 33 date. So there's a lot of stuff that they found relative to the shroud. This is the pollen samples are showing here. And he says, I believe that based on the evidence in the 102 academic disciplines that have studied over 600,000 research hours in it. So I went from skeptic to believing in it based on the science, according to Dr. Johnson. He's not the only one. That's him holding a crown of thorns right there in front of the shroud. I saw it behind the glass, so he's up on it personally there. Now, what you got to know is this. Several things. One, the shroud was in a fire. They saved it from a fire. And you can see the burn marks here. Well, the fire also got it on the edges. When they did a radiocarbon dating, and this is not in this article. This article is focused on the pollens. I have read so many articles on this over the years. It's not funny. Starting in the late 90s, I got really obsessed with the Shroud. And and I saw it in about year 2000. They tested fibers on the edge of the cloth because the church did not want to take something out of the center of the cloth. And, that tested the year 1200 some odd year, like the, 1200s. And so a lot of people say, okay, it's a fake, it's fake. Well, upon further analysis, what they found is that the fibers that they took from it was repair work fibers to keep the cloth together more along the edge when it caught on fire. It was not original material. Didn't even have the same weave as original material. And the kind of weave of the linen it's made out of is actually the kind of material they actually used in Jerusalem back in, about 1 AD. So this shroud definitely dates way back. Now, the funny thing is, there's also some DNA material in it from India. So maybe the shroud it went over to India and came back for some purpose. Some people think that Jesus in his lost years went to India. There's some people make that claim. Hey, that's just speculation as far as I know. Hearsay, I don't know what there is to justify that. Maybe some of you know and got better evidence, but that's what some people have claimed. So that's kind of interesting. There's some connection to India, at least in the DNA. Maybe there were people from India and Jerusalem at the time, but that's just highly unusual, but highly interesting. But the image itself is not painted on. There's no pigment on it whatsoever. It's just at the very minute surface, and it's a negative image of the person that the shroud was wrapped around. And there's one other data point that seems to give it more validity probably than any. It's that it's known that Jesus had a headcloth, and there's a cloth in France. I think we call it Sandra. How do you pronounce that? Maybe some of you guys know the Sandra Heaton. I don't know what the pronunciation for that cloth is. I always get mixed up on that. But the way it was wound around his head, the blood stains on that cloth from the puncture wounds from the crown match the blood stains on the shroud itself. They say they match. And that may be one of the biggest evidences that the shroud is or could be authentic. So, my question is, why would anybody in the year 1200 think to create a negative image on something and to make it so thin? But it's got 3D properties to it too. So it's not just something somebody did on a flat surface. So the shroud is a very interesting relic. I personally believe it's real. That's my belief. You can take it or leave it. I believe Jesus Christ was wrapped in this, and when he resurrected, the energy of his resurrection made the imprint. Now, I don't know what y'all think about it. If y'all agree with that, put a 2 in the chat room. If you think that's crazy, put a 1 in the chat room. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. But that's my humble opinion. I've read up on this thing for years, read extensively on pro, con, and that's what convinced me the thing was real. So, and I got to see it at some length. Well, there's more interesting backstory behind it, why I had that interest in it, and just lucked out to see it. Maybe that was a divine thing for me. I don't know. Maybe that was a divine gift. Uh, anyway, so um, let's get back to the war. This Iran war. This this airman that was rescued, it climbed up a mountain 7,000 feet high to hide. And he was hiding in a crevice. He was injured. All he had, apparently he had a pistol to defend himself. So, I mentioned earlier, there was typically now what they put in the back of the ejection seats, these jet fighters, is a Grau. What Grau 9, but it's based on M4 carbine, Grau 5, I believe is what they call it. It's based on the M4 carbine. So it looks a lot, like it's a, AR M16 family type rifle, but, just smaller, more compact, the folding stock. But that's not what he had. Apparently he had a pistol. That's what they used to issue all the airmen. Maybe he took his own pistol. But like I said, if you're injured from the ejection, which is very probable, and you got a broken hand, it's hard to deal with a rifle. Pistol's a lot easier to deal with. And so, yeah, he was hiding. Apparently, the CIA was putting out false indications that they had him and retrieved him just to try to call off the people looking for him. But, probably the aircraft looking, tipped the locals off, and they were definitely in there trying to get him. And a lot of them lost their life. They was going to get like a $60 million bonus if any of them that recovered. Uh, the downed weapons officer. That's what it was. It was a weapons officer, colonel. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know fully. There is apparently some of the aircraft got damaged. The United States reported they blew them up and destroyed them rather than have them fall into enemy hands and switched aircraft. According to the Iranians, they shot them down. According to the Iranians, they shoot everything down. They might have shot some of these things down. They might have shot down the A-10. But the video they show claim it was to shoot down the A-10 was a video of them shooting a Predator drone. And the guys that said they shot the original F-15 down was claiming it was F-35. So, guys, you can't believe everything you hear from either side. It's the fog of war. It's definitely the fog of war. In time, more of this will come out. We'll know more about what's went down and how it happened. But that's just something you got to bear in mind. So all these channels that have the absolute truth, this, well, it's not exactly that clear because of the fog of war and all the propaganda that both sides are going to put out. Some people will take one side, some people will take the other side. Oh no, it's absolutely this is what happened. This is what happened. Don't take that to the bank entirely. I tend to, just based on what I've seen, trust our side a little bit more in this narrative because I have seen, like I said, the Iranians putting out videos shooting a Predator drone and claiming they were shooting the A-10 Warthog. Now, apparently they did get the A-10 Warthog. I don't know about if the F-35 went down because it was shot or if it had a mechanical problem. But apparently the A-10 Warthog was actually in part of the initial search and rescue for the downed pilot and weapons officer. But fortunately, that crew member got rescued. And he flew in over Kuwait, I think maybe over the waters of Kuwait, before his plane actually went down. Uh-oh, my cats have got something they shouldn't have. I don't know what they got over there, but they're into everything. But anyway, so that's what happened. Here's something though. It's likely that the aircraft was taken down by man pads. That's a shoulder-fired rocket, basically. That is something that I worry about for our airfields here in the United States if we get into a war with China, since China bought land near all our military bases, and let's catch on some significant over there. Since they bought land near all our military bases, they could show up with man pads and take out aircraft coming off the tarmac, or they could fly drones over and pull a major Operation Spider Web a lot easier than what the Ukrainians did when they took out a lot of the Russian bombers. So if you think that Chinese infiltration in our country isn't serious, you're not paying attention. That's like the guys when the Twin Towers were taken out, go, oh, I never would have thought of that. Nobody would ever thought of airplanes in the towers. Excuse me. That had actually been published as a scenario earlier. How could they come out and say stuff like that? How could they say it? When I went to New York City, I went to New York City before the Twin Towers fell. And that was the last time I went there. Just before, I think it was the last time. I've been up there twice. I was speaking to an education conference. I was a guest speaker, and they flew me up there, put me in a hotel on Wall Street. I'm in a hotel room. Whole thing was no bigger than what I got right here, and it was a very expensive room. It's like crazy. But I made it a point to go see the Twin Towers. I got there too late to go up in them. They'd closed them. But I did go around in the basement area where the subways are and things like that. So I've been in the basement area of the Twin Towers. I wanted to see it. And I did get to drive by. I looked up and they were huge. because I was convinced that one of these days those towers are going to come down and retarded because they already tried to get them in '93. So I was totally convinced that these towers were targeted and they were coming down. That's why I went out of my way to try to see them. We did drive right by them. I remember looking up at them. Wow. And it was just shocking how fast they collapsed when they did. Anyway, all that said, that was nuts. So yeah, I was up there probably a year or two before they came down. All right, my friends, let's move on to these topics here. Yeah, all these guys were bounty hunters going after them, looking for their $60 million. The RGC was after them, but they didn't fare too well. They were all turned into crispy critters. So Trump is talking about, like I said, he's talking about blasting the out of Iran if starting Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time if they don't make a deal and open the Strait of Hormuz. And so there's plenty of articles about that. Plan in place to strike strategic Iran sites if deal not reached. Sources tell the Post here, the Jerusalem Post. And like I said, they went through and did some extensive target identification. They've already picked a target they want to hit. This is telling us what time Trump is actually going to talk tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to cover that live. That will be 5 p.m. my time. It's supposed to be raining here at that time. So, wow, my house is getting torn down. 45. Now, here's the deal 45-day U.S. Israel Iran ceasefire in the works. What do they mean in the works? Mediators make last-ditch push for a 45-day ceasefire as Trump deadline nears. Iran and a group of regional mediators are reportedly trying to secure this proposed ceasefire. So, and like I said, this thing will either end in 3 weeks, when we exhaust targets or ammo, or could end in 3 weeks. It may go further, but or it's going to end maybe this way. Let's hope this is the way it ends. And we're going to look at one other thing. So there's more talking about that. Final phase ring conflict appears in sight. U.S. prepares to close the entire stealth missile arsenal as Iran strikes intensify. Like I said, they're planning to fire everything. That's what I'm saying. That's one of your jasms right there. That's why I'm saying that's probably one of the end scenarios. Oh, I think I clicked something off. Where was it? There was a general that talked about this. Where is it at? Yeah, retired general. This is General Keane, basically. Army General Jack Keane said Sunday, which was today, until a few minutes ago or an hour ago, that the conflict with Iran will likely be over in less than 60 days. Well, there's another reason for that, because after 60 days, you've got to get approval by Congress according to the War Powers Act. So the president's got a certain latitude for up to 60 days. So that's another window that he's looking at. And another thing they're looking at, if this conflict continues, the GOP will be decimated in the midterms, and that may already be baked in. So there's a lot of pressure on get this done to get in and get out. And the 40-day ceasefire might be an early ticket to make it happen. That is something to hope for. Now, I'm just telling you, I'm just bringing to you guys what the facts on this. So again, Donald Trump is going to be speaking. He says, due to popular demand from the press, whatever the heck that means, since someone is a Trump advocate to that. So he's obviously got something to say. So it'll be interesting what he says at 8 p.m. tomorrow, which will be 24 hours before what he claims is when the bombing is going to commence. Be really interesting. But we know he's also had a tendency to set a deadline and start bombing before the deadline's over. Maybe that's what he's going to do. Maybe he'll announce operations have commenced. I don't know. We shall see Well, watch it. The last time he did a press conference, it was kind of a nothing burger. He just regurgitated everything he'd been saying and just put it all in one talk. Of course, you never know what comes next. So, according to the Iranians, hey, this is going to stay closed until you compensate us for war damages. Yeah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. We're going to be done here in a little bit, guys. I ain't going to go too long tonight. Uh, China unveils a handheld coil gun that works like a less deadly pistol. Now, this is a coil gun. This is like a miniature mass driver. You probably heard me talking about how China could put a mass driver on the moon and own the world, literally, with a mass from a mass driver on the moon. Well, now they have taken that technology and made a miniaturized version and put it in a pistol, and this thing will fire 1,000 to 2,000 rounds per minute. And apparently they can, they're calling it a non-lethal weapon, yet it can break boards. Breaking boards and you're firing 1 to 2,000 rounds per minute. It sounds to me like it's got a fair measure of lethality to it. Kind of claim it's for crowd control. Maybe they'll load it up with little miniature paintballs. I don't know. But for the coil gun to react, there's either got to be a little bucket inside that carries the payload within the coil gun, or the little projectile's got to be magnetic. So I don't see a paintball being what they're shooting. So for crowd control, it may be a rather gruesome weapon. And we're getting into sci-fi days here already, guys. This is like a sci-fi weapon. When you look at the robotics we're coming up, when you look at lasers, discombobulators, when you're looking at microwave weapons, we're getting fast into a sci-fi world. It's coming quick. Let's change topics now. Let's get more into my category. I just found this news item, and I thought I would report it to you guys because a lot of you guys are like me. We're organic farmers, and we got our own little worm herd. If you're a worm farmer, this is the last thing you ever want to see. This is a hammerhead worm. It eats earthworms voraciously. They can wipe your earthworms out. This is the one thing I feared in my worm farm in Alabama. I don't so much fear it here because unless somebody transported them in. That's one thing I worried about out there, somebody bringing them in. They can travel in potting soil. So you got to be careful what you're bringing into your property because these hammerhead worms are terrible. Not only that, they put out neurotoxins. They could adversely affect your pet's health big time, maybe even in lives of some pets, because there's a spectrum of species and the toxicity varies greatly. Now, this article is talking about the guy, he cut it in half. Well, all he did is made 2 worms. If you take one of these and smash it with a rock into 1,000,000 pieces, you will get 1,000,000 worms. Every dadgum cell of this thing can reconstitute and make a new worm. These things are horrendous. They're hard to kill. You can't kill it by smashing it. The way to get rid of it is don't pick it up with your bare hands because it's got neurotoxins in its skin. Just grab a piece of cloth or a piece of paper or some tweezers or grab it up with a shovel on a stick and drop it in a bag or a jar or a bucket with alcohol or vinegar in it. If you can't do that, pour salt all over it. That's how you deal with these. So I need to cover this as a topic for a new worm farming video one day. But I just want to let you guys know because a lot of you guys, like me, raise worms. It's the last thing I would ever want to see. Fortunately, I've never seen one around my worm farm. Yikes, but I know we had them in Alabama. Down here where it's drier. My hope is that there ain't no such thing around here. Now, if you're around here and you've ever seen one of those, let me know. Now, guys, I did this video that y'all really need to watch them, the Chinese bio threat. And look here, what many views I got? Not that many, not even 1,000, unless it just went up. Let's regurgitate this again. 949 views. You see it's on the bottom side of my typical curve. And somebody Didn't like it to the point they unsubscribed. I'm trying to give people a warning here, and somebody unsubscribed. It's like, really, what is wrong with you guys? What is going on with you? So watch that video if you get a chance. Now let's talk about earthquakes. We got a big recent one right here. Look at that. Philippines 5.2. We got stuff going on here just like yesterday in the Kermadec Islands. A lot of activity over here, all around the Philippines. And some of this is down to Indonesia, Aleutian Islands. So is this ADAC? Yeah, Atu. A lot going on here around Atu. I'm down in the Aleutians as usual. The left coast, West Wokistan. Let's zoom in on West Wokistan. Oh, we got something over here. Wyoming, Kelly, Wyoming. How close is that to Jellystone? We got a couple here near the San Andreas Fault. Ridgemark, California, 2.7, not a big one. But anytime you get something going on in the San Andreas, you need to pay attention. 2.8 in Pinnacles, California. This is on the San Andreas down in Mexico. 2.6, 3 kilometers northwest of Estacio. Cool. Yeah, however you say that. So there you go, my friends. And we got some earthquakes going on. In space weather, the solar storm is over. Artemis don't have to worry about that. The roar is weak. Let's show maps, comet, wind in the sun, and disintegrated. And no change in the asteroid forecast. We got one coming 70% of the way between Earth and the moon on the 14th. So that's no change in that. And that one's a 20 meter diameter asteroid, but it will miss us. So, good Lord willing. So, nothing to be too concerned about on that one. I will be carrying Artemis, letting her fly by tomorrow, once or twice. We'll see how that goes. And I'll stop the share. Bada bing, bada bang. And it is about 1:10 in the morning. We're going to wrap up in just a second here. Hey, C. Shelley, I heard about those hammerheads and their invasion into Texas. Yeah, they are spreading in the United States. They came from Southeast Asia, and they are a threat to a lot of things in our gardens, our animals, our pets. You got to hope your chickens don't try to eat them because they're toxic. Chickens like to peck everything that moves. So I hope they don't get in with your chickens. All right, guys, we're going to do the egg guess. So how many eggs I get today? We're wrapping this up. We're going to wrap it up quick. How many eggs I get today? Time to guess. Anybody got a guess? How many eggs did I get today? Better get out my other light. All right, folks. Morning, Arnold. Hey, Space Girl, how you doing? 3? I keep guessing. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. How you doing, Arnold? Keep guessing. Hey, Zinjamin, how you doing? Whoa, we got a winner in C. Shelley. C. Shelley got the right number. We got 5. 5 eggs. C. Shelley got it right. So out of the 5 eggs, now wait a minute, don't guess, let the guesses stop. Stop rolling with the guesses. When the guess numbers stop, I'll ask the next question. I'm gonna wait till the numbers quit rolling. All right, the numbers have quit rolling. And so I don't look at any answers above that. Now we take the next guess. How many are Easter eggs? The 5 eggs, how many are Easter eggs? There you go. You get the trophies. You get to give yourself a trophy, see, Shelley. How many eggs are Easter eggs out of what I got here? All right, time to guess. You think all five would be Easter eggs? No. All right. Whoosh. Got it. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh guessed right. It's one. The number is one. See, Shelley guessed it, but whoosh beat you. So you were almost two for two, see, Shelley. You just been a little faster. Whoosh is fast. I like that name. Whoosh. One time I dated a girl named Doppler. I get the Doppler effect. So anyway, all righty. Yes, it's all Easter. No, well, not all the eggs, just one. All right, I'll show them to you. Hang on a minute. I'll open the screen here so you can see. And that one on this end is the Easter egg now. 5 eggs. And that's it today. It's all I got today. All righty, folks. Oh, there was an egg that was crushed in the hen house. I don't know what went on with that. All I saw was an eggshell. I don't know if that was from yesterday or today. Probably today, because I got a lot more eggs yesterday. But the question is, how many did I harvest? Not how many did the hens lay. So that lay was not successful, whatever happened. Uh, Sometimes the hens can be raw because this one I try to gather them twice today. I only gathered one time today, though. I usually gather twice today. All right, there we go. I'm going to glance to the chat room real fast, make sure there wasn't something of great import that I missed. My grandmother has great saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. That's a good one, Space Girl. I used to hear it when I was growing up. That's what the old timers used to say a lot. Some of the list, Arnold says, so the list of the removed is increases. Dan Bongino, no, Nami, Bondi, 4 generals. Who's next? Good question. There is an Army general apparently Hicks thinks might be tapped to replace him. He's reportedly, it's rumored he may fire him. Huck Finn. Do we have Huck Finn in that? Yeah, we do have Huck Finn in the house. That's great. Huck Finn. Glad to see you, Huck Finn. Hats off to the Wizzo and the CSAR extraction team. Top notch. I agree with you, Huck Finn. Absolutely. Hello, Space Girl. I'm reading the bottom up. Arnold, great brother, when are you going to get a real computer? Yeah, well, this was supposed to be a real computer I'm using. It was the most expensive computer I ever bought, and the worst. So I don't know if I'm gonna get another one. I turn it in because my income is going bye-bye. So I got to figure some angles. Got a lot of figuring to do. Anyway, yeah. Okie water girl. Good morning. Been watching you. What I was lost it. So good morning. We've been waiting for you. Oh, okay, what's going on with the crazy war? Well, we've hit it. So yeah, it's either they're going to make some kind of peace deal, which they're talking about a 45-day ceasefire, or all heck is going to break loose at 8 p.m. Tuesday. But 8 p.m. Monday, we're going to get an address from President Trump. Now, the Israelis already started some of those hits. So what is Trump going to say tomorrow? Anybody's guess. So I should be going live a couple times at least tomorrow. Should be going live with Galactic Gregs for the first time humans have been going around the moon in 54 years. And I should also have a live of the president's address right here on Green Gregs. So there you are, my friends. That's what I'm planning. If something big comes up, I might do a special early video today, or tomorrow, like I did today, where I was talking about this Chinese bio weapon threat again, because it's come out. This is what really gets me, guys. It's come out that the guy who owned the lab in Greeley, California, used a house in Las Vegas for collateral for his bail bond, and yet nobody went to check that place out. And in the last year, he called it 400 times. And how do we find out about it? A maid turned it in. And we're just lucky that maid had the good sense to call the FBI. How many maids think of that? Not many. So that's amazing. So, how many more biolabs are there in the United States? And you need to watch that video because it goes a lot of depth about the full spectrum of that kind of threat, and it ought to wake you up, and it also ought to make you mad that the FBI is a sleeping switch. I should have called the video FBI fail. I got a lot more views than I did. Anyway, so we're going to call it a night here, guys. This will be the earliest I've ended for a while. I've been worn out and going to bed at 4 and 5 in the morning and getting up early. It has wore me out. So, uh, hey, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, mods. Y'all take care. And with that, I'm going to say good night, good day to everyone. In honor of our good lost dear friend, Greg Atlanta. Ho, ho, ho.